गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गाना शॉट। गाना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। आज हम देखेंगे द फ्यूचर कॉन्टोर्स ऑफ चाइना पाकिस्तान एक्सेस अगेंस्ट इंडिया। I chose this topic based on a request from one of you in one of my last videos. I said, so why don't you cover this? I thought over, I said, look, in the current conditions, it's right that we cover this topic and understand it in its full entirety, where it's going. In any case, let me tell you at the outset, this China-Pakistan axis is undergoing a change. And we need to be on top of this change because it affects us. The axis is fundamentally against us. So let me start. What are the historic facts? I mean, the basic thing is the enemy of your enemy is your friend. So that's how China and Pakistan look at it. India's enemy is my friend. Okay. As far as Pakistan is concerned, we all know it considers India as an existential threat. China has started calling it a peer competitor of late. It doesn't say so because it wants to be a peer competitor of USA and establish its Sino-centric world order. But it knows that in Asia, if there's one country which can compete with China, it is India. Until such time, it can dominate Asia, it can't dominate the world. So to that extent, it's a peer competitor. Okay. If you go back in history, India, Pakistan, and China got independence almost together. Rather, China, I wouldn't say got independence, it became a communist country and became the People's Republic of China in 49. Pakistan was one of the first countries to recognize the PRC. Very interesting. Even though it had complete orientation towards the USA and the British or UK at that point of time, it was one of the first countries to recognize China. China has been consistently supporting Pakistan throughout. Especially after 71 war, it even gave $1 million loan at that point, which is never returned by China, by Pakistan. Very interesting. After the breakup of Pakistan Bangladesh, creation of Bangladesh, and Bhutto had gone to China. And at that time, Zhou Enlai said, okay, we'll give you $1 million loan. And if you return it, fine. If you don't return it, also fine. That's the kind of an equation they've had over the period of long years. We must also remember 1972, when Nixon went to China and met Mao and the rapprochement took place. Complete midwifing was done by Pakistan. The preparation for the Nixon Mao meet was done by Kissinger. Kissinger went to Pakistan, spent a night there, said, look, I'm not well. I'm going to stay one night in Pakistan, recovering from my illness. But actually, he boarded a plane, went to China without telling anyone, and fixed up everything, came back. So to that extent, China has always been beholden to Pakistan because Pakistan facilitated China's recovery. So that loyalty and that thing is there between the two of them. that bond. And let's be very clear, that won't go away, come what may. So you have to live with the fact that this axis can't be broken. We also have to understand, right, that till the turn of the century, till 9/11 happened and the twin towers came down, uh, US, Pakistan, and China were largely against India. Uh, it's very strange. 71 war, definitely USA was against India. It sided Pakistan. Though things started turning after our reform started in the 90s, till the Twin Towers came down, no, the equation between India and USA were not great. Equation between China, Pakistan, and USA were very good till the turn of the century. Remember this. So that axis was not only China Pakistan axis, I would put it US, China, and Pakistan axis. That's why whenever people say, look, you cannot trust USA, I completely agree. We cannot completely trust USA. We'll have a strategic partnership, fine. We are a growing power, fine. But we need to look to our interests. And our interests and US interests always do not align. Okay, what are the contours of this relationship? We must understand that China has had three conflicts with India: 62, 67, and 84. Not 67, it was like 64, the Natula incident, where we, really hammered them. That's a mistake. And then, of course, the recent ones at Doklam, Eastern Ladakh, and Yangtze. I'll talk of those three later. But we've had historically conflicts with China. We've had wars with Pakistan, well recorded, 47, 65, 71, and Kargil. So both countries, we've had a fight. If you notice, except the 62 debacle which we suffered, we've always taught both these countries a lesson. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we shouldn't have a doubt about it. We sorted them out in the manner it was required to be sorted out. Right. Having said this, and they feel the pinch of it. One thing which I feel is that, and this is my analysis, is that these wars have said that individually they cannot beat India. They cannot achieve a military victory against India anymore. Okay. The second thing is both have a common boundary problem in J&K with India. Pakistan, we sitting on Gilgit Baltistan and the Pak occupied Kashmir part, and China is sitting in Aksai. You leave the other things out. I'm talking about the contours of the Pak-China axis. Then Pakistan ceded the Shaksgam Valley after the 71 war, when it, to China. Right. China assisted Pakistan in its nuclear and missile program. If uh, Pakistan has a fairly strong missile and nuclear program, it is thanks to China. It did the proliferation directly and through North Korea also. Right. Both the countries have supported insurgencies in India. Everyone looks at it when you say insurgency and terror, recent past, J&K and all. No, but you have to go back to the time of Naga insurgency, when Fizo, right, he came to Bangladesh when it was East Pakistan. He escaped into Bangladesh, went to West Pakistan, and from there went to England. And all the Naga insurgents were trained by Pakistan. A lot of Naga insurgents went to Yunnan for training. right? So both have supported insurgencies here. And of course, later, Pak fought a proxy war with us. It's still fighting a proxy war with us. State sponsor of terror. I'll talk about this a little later. Then, of course, you have to understand whenever the issue of Pak being a state sponsor of terror, or whenever a particular terrorist was to be blacklisted, right, from of Pakistan, like this Jaish-e-Mohammed chap, and, the LET guy founder, China has stood in the way of UN and said, no, they are not terrorists. So that support, that contours is there. So the diplomatic support from China to Pakistan has been constant. It's never changed. Okay. And this will not change. Let's be very clear about it. This will not change in future also. Okay. There is an issue of mutual interdependence between them. What is this mutual interdependence all about? For China, Pakistan is a pawn against India. That's the first one. Second, Pakistan is a platform for power projection globally for China. And Pakistan also protects China from the spread of radical Islam into Xinjiang. अब देखिए, Pakistan trained terrorists have gone to India, they have gone to even USA, they have gone all over, but they have not gone to Xinjiang. Okay, so there is a clear nexus. Why these terrorist groups, if they were completely rogue terrorist groups to do what they wanted in terms of radicalism in Islam, they should have gone logically to China, but they've not gone. Why? Because they're all state sponsored. For Pakistan, China is an economic lifeline. It's a hedge against USA. Okay, but that's all this is changing. I'm putting the background in picture. Okay, China supports Pakistan against India. I've said, and of late, it is an arms provider to Pakistan. It always gave arms to Pakistan right from beginning, but now things have changed drastically, which we'll talk. And this is the future contour of their access. Okay, what's the heyday of the Pak China nexus? We need to understand. This happened around 2010. Okay, uh, that was a time when China's economy was booming. The Pak economy was buoyant. It was buoyant because it was getting a lot of money from USA for this global war on terror business, for giving transit facilities for the US troops in Afghanistan, basically from the Afghan campaign, plus a whole lot of drug money it was getting. So Pakistan was flushed with funds, right, and it could do what they wanted. That was a time when India started rising. Reforms had taken place, things had stabilized. This is also the time when USA realized that Pakistan is not a good bet, especially after the Kargil war and the 9/11 attacks, the parliament attack. Everyone came to know that Pakistan is a state sponsor of terror, and that's when a strategic partnership started, progressing. But by 2010, I mean it's an approximate figure, give or take a few years, the China-Pak axis was at its peak. Okay, this is also a time when the CPEC was conceived, 2008, 2009. Why? China wanted access to the warm waters of the Gulf, a road route from Xinjiang down to you know, Karachi and in fact Gwadar. And Pakistan wanted CPEC uh, so that it could change its economic fate. That that was the pipe dream. It was against this background, somewhere around 2010, 4, 5. Actually, the two front start theory started gaining ground after about 2004, 2005, and by 2010, it was almost official threat perception of India that there'll be two fronts against India. And then the half front of the terrorism and insurgency and left wing extremism got clubbed in. But that was a little later. Around 2005 to 2010, the two front theory gained momentum. And India said, look, hereafter we have to prepare for two fronts. This is changing, but this actually gives you a baseline scenario. And this baseline scenario is the fundamental and the worst case scenario for India to prepare militarily. And I don't think we should change this. We should prepare for this, but be prepared for doing something else. Because the territorial integrity and sovereignty of India rests on the fact that you are able to ward off a two-front threat from Pakistan and China collusively. Right. Now, in this, there's a duality of the relationship always. You'll find this now, you'll find this going ahead. What is this duality? Look, China has encouraged Pakistan to sponsor jihadist militants to attack the Soviets when Mujahideen were sent into Afghanistan during the time of the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. This was during Ziaul's era. Okay, they also supported Pakistan when the same Taliban was sent into Afghanistan to fight USA because it suited them. It suited China to tie down USA and India in one go. And it did it very effectively through Pakistan. Okay. But at the same time, it pressurized Pakistan to rein in jihadists who were targeting Chinese rule in Xinjiang. That now, that is the ETIM, right? East Turkestan Independent Movement. Now, that ETIM today is vacillating between Al Qaeda and uh, Afghan Taliban and all. It's there. It's not gone away. It's there. Maybe some element is there in TTP. Tomorrow, if things go bad, these chaps can reappear there. That is why China quotes Afghanistan and Pakistan still. And just think, last week I did this show and program with on P Gurus about how we have reopened the Tibet, question in some form. And if something happens in Xinjiang and this militant movement spreads there, think of China, where China will be. China's tail will be on fire. And that, if it happens, is the worst case scenario for China. And I'll talk of it. Going ahead, I think that's a very important aspect which one has to factor in. Okay, what is the scene pre 22? The complete, global conflict scenario. Have a look at this map. Pre 22, you had the Uri incident, the Pulwama incident, and then we had the surgical strikes. We had the Balakot attack on Balakot, or rather Jabatok. And then the CPEC in this time, started having certain problems, but it was going great guns. As far as China was concerned, around 2018-19, It had consolidated South China Sea islands and had finished constructing the artificial islands there. It had gobbled up Hong Kong. And then it had three conflicts with us, or rather minor conflicts with us, at Doklam, Eastern Ladakh, and Yangtze. The last, why I said pre 22, the last skirmish took place in Yangtze, October 22. Before that, all these, all along a border against us, right? And China was pretty stable in Hong Kong and South China Sea. There was no threat there. And this goes back beyond the pandemic. So, overall, what did you see? You saw a very high degree of internalization where Pakistan was on your border. You had problems with Pakistan on one side and China on one side. Both your borders were active, the LOC and the LAC, both intermittently, right? But one thing I want to tell you here, Uri happened, we did the surgical strikes. Pulwama happened, we did the Balakot strikes. All these had finished by 2017. Come 2017, for whatever reason, Doklam had happened, and then immediately Eastern Ladakh happened 2020 after the pandemic or during the pandemic, and Yangtze happened at the tail end of the pandemic. Even in this, the timeline has no overlap. What I'm trying to say is, throughout history, there is no overlap between uh, China and USA, sorry, between China and Pakistan in their conflicts against India. Go back to all the conflicts. 65, Pakistan expected China to react and help them when we were attacking them. It didn't happen. 71, when we were, almost on the verge of conquering Bangladesh, Pakistan reached out desperately to China to do something from the north, especially along the Chumbi Valley. China didn't do anything. There was no help. Even during Kargil, Pakistan expected China to do something. It didn't happen. When these actions took place, Doklam or Yangtze and all that, lot of talk was there on collusive support from Pakistan and all that. It didn't happen. So if you see, actually, though we formulate the two-front war and we prepare for it, is it really there? History and actions on ground indicate that the two-front war theory is flawed. It also, I'll spend a couple of minutes on this. Nations don't go to war to suit other nations. This is not the era of colonialization and Second World War, First World War. Even now, you see, USA has not gone to war for Ukraine or for Israel. They're giving them help, but fighting has to be done by Ukraine and uh, Israel only. No one is helping them to fight the other beyond this. Similarly, nations will not go to war for others. Nations will go for war in today's era for their political objectives. What is their political objective? They'll go for war. That political objective might not be suitable for the other country. What is there in, for Pakistan? If there's a war in Arunachal Pradesh, India, they know logically, India is strong enough to handle such kind of a thing. The worst case scenario, all India has to do is go defensive. I mean, hypothetically, if China attacks from the eastern Ladakh and Pakistan attacks from again in the Kargil area or north in Turtuk area, The thinking is it will be a collusive attack and both will attack us. I agree. I agree. It can happen. But all we have to do is defend ourselves there. And just beef up our strength and defend. And then let the mountains do the trick. Because in mountains, the attacker has to have overwhelming superiority of up to 9. The standard thing is 9 is to 1 superiority. At times it'll go up to even 16 is to 1. If both countries have to put that kind of capability to capture any post or in a war, and India has to do just 1/9 of that effort, and we have that capability, it's a no-go for both of them. It's a no-brainer, in fact. There's another thing which I want to clarify. You know, when it's campaign time in the east, the northern Himalayas pack up completely. When it's campaign time in northern Himalayas, the eastern passes are not yet open. It's not open because of the heavy rains. In the eastern Himalayas, war can occur only after say October, November, December. October, November, tak northern passes, western Himalayas closed down. You can't uh, you can't go across. I mean, people can go across, but large scale movement can't take place, or logistics are a problem. Attacks are out of question. Summer months, when in eastern Ladakh, western Ladakh, or in J&K, you can do operations. It's monsoon time in the east. This is something which people don't understand. So virtually, if you look at it, it's not a what shall I say? It's not rocket science to say that collusion will never take place. But that's an assessment. Collusion might take place. So that you prepare for that. That's the worst case scenario. If you prepare for that, you're okay for any other scenario. But even that has changed. Okay. Now let's see where this whole story started, shaking. We all know that China, Pakistan went in for the CPEC, part of the BRI. CPEC was the flagship of BRI. It was 50% of BRI. And China was supposed to invest $60 billion into CPEC. What's coming out is later it got pruned down to about 40 odd billions. Today they've just spent about 22 billions. Even that is not functional. I'll not get into the CPC in a whole. I've done a program with Lieutenant General KJ Singh earlier on CPEC. Please have a look at it. Right? But overall, CPEC was not viable from a long time. In fact, from the day it was conceived, because it was over ambitious. There was lack of diligence. I mean, for example, 40% of CPC when it was conceived was all thermal power projects. Now, for thermal power projects, you need water, which Pakistan didn't have. You need coal, which Pakistan didn't have, right? And you need expertise, which Pakistan didn't have to run those thermal plants. And then you need transmission lines, which Pakistan still doesn't have. So all these thermal power projects have come, and they went in for a power purchase agreement with China, which Pakistan can't pay. That is why you have this issue of circular debt and debt rollover and all that nonsense, right? The power producers are all Chinese. The Chinese are laughing all the way to the bank. Pakistan is going under debt. The diligence was not there. Well, I'm going into a project. Will it be viable or not? Will it meet its stated ends or not? It never did. Then Every country has a capability to absorb. It's like your stomach. Look, if you are well trained, you're exercising, everything, you'll eat more. But what if you're not? What if you're not used to eating more? You can't eat. Your stomach will only absorb that much in a day. Pakistan has the same problem. Amount of investment you can do in Pakistan is limited. Experts say Pakistan can absorb about 1 to 1.5 billion in a year FDI, not more, for infrastructure. Here, China had invested nearly 20 billion over a 3 year period. Even that is over a 3 4 year period. That is every year in the initial stages of the CPI, it was investing up to $4 to $5 billion, right? Which Pakistan could not absorb. So where is that money gone? Bribes. So actually, on ground, what is manifested in CPEC is far lesser than what was planned or invested into. Then there's an issue of culture incompatibility. The Chinese culture and the Pakistan culture are completely different. The Chinese love pigs and pork. The you know Pakistanis can't do that. Islam prohibits them from eating pork or dealing with pork. So there's an issue there. Okay. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, it was undercommitted and overstated. The expectation was that it will change the face of Pakistan without actually happening. And then they had divergent end games, right? What was the end play? China, you viewed the complete CPC and BRI as a business deal. Okay, first, so that it makes money, there's return of investment. And then the strategic issue came in. It was first money. China is very clear, economics is the first thing. Whereas in Pakistan, no, it was exactly the opposite. It was based on the US experience. Why? If you see in the history of Pakistan, Pakistan has never returned money back to any country. It has just kept taking. I mean, with US and Pakistan, the thing was very clear. There was no loan shown and all. No money was. It was one way. And Pakistan was very clear it will never return any money to China. The investment was from China. Returns, वगैरह देखेंगे. But if things went bad, Pakistan will never give it the money back to China. And that's what's happening. Okay. The strategic issues and all were the main thing as far as Pakistan was concerned. Economics were part of the story. Whatever is stated is probably completely opposite to what I'm saying today. But today, what is the status? Pakistan is completely in China's debt trap. But that's conventional thinking because Pakistan is not going to repay back. People say, okay, Pakistan, China will take over all those facilities created by it in part of CPEC, and there'll be Pakistan will become a colony of China. Will it? Can China handle all that? For the simple reason, I mean, the way I look at it, it can't. For the simple reason that the Pak people don't like Chinese. That's the cultural incompatibility which has come about. Why is Chinese? Why are Chinese engineers or CPC workers getting killed? It's just not terrorism. There are conditions of terrorism within Pakistan, radicalism, all that. We know that. But they don't like the Chinese. On ground, the Pakistanis feel deprived. The Chinese have come, set up everything, made money out of Pakistan, put Pakistan in a debt, or trying to put them in a debt trap and gone. They're not going. They're going to take over all those. In which case, China has to be prepared to stay in hostile Pakistan area. which I don't think even the Pakistan armed forces and the security forces are interested in guarding very seriously. They will talk of Azme Istikam. Okay. Now all this I had is analyzed. I had written a series of articles going back to 2017 when I first started writing after retirement. Okay, these are the articles I wrote. I felt the CPEC was a Chinese carrot and a Pakistani juggler, which gave India an opportunity. And I'll talk about it a little later. Because even now, this view of mine has never changed. CPEC is a major vulnerability for Pakistan and China. I'll talk of it today. Way back in 2017, I had written Pakistan China Economic Corridor failure looming ahead. People will say, Yaar, aap abhi baat karo. No. That's why I said, go to Ganashon, type this in the search, you will get this article. Please read it for yourself. It was apparent for me then. And then at that time, I had said it's the weak heart of CPC neglected beyond repair. The weak heart of CPEC was Balochistan. Balochistan is called the weak heart of the CPEC. And again, I go back to 2017-18 when I wrote this. Have a look at all this, and then you'll see CPEC was doomed from the start. And at the end of this CPEC, or where it is today, it was but natural that the equation between China and Pakistan will change. And it has changed. We'll talk of that also. Okay? Now, Pakistan has 3.5 fronts. This is important because we have to understand it and act on this. Okay? I had written this again, I wrote not now, I wrote in 2017. This is an extract from that one of the articles. I said Pakistan will henceforth have 3.5 fronts to contend with. It will be an unstable Durand line to the west. The second front is the traditional eastern front against India, and a half internal front due to the jihadi factory, that is TTP, LET, ये जो भी T's हैं उनके पास. And make no mistake, CPEC is the new third front. Already at that time, forces were being put in place to protect this new front. And I had written that this has great implications in the Pakistani strategic calculus. Consider this. The new front runs right through the middle in the heartland, is vulnerable to inimical forces from all other fronts. All other fronts, I had written then that it will be attacked by Afghanistan or rather Pashtuns, whoever you call it, Taliban, जो भी है, and from India. It's vulnerable to us also. And this third front starts at the Kunjirab Pass and comes right down to Gwadar. Throughout, it is vulnerable. Why was Pakistan perturbed about the Balakot strike? And they had to come into eastern Ladakh thereafter. Because Abbottabad lies on the CPEC. You have the capability to interact with the CPEC in some form or the other. Actually, it sends shivers down the Chinese spine. I mean, people don't realize all this. Again, I'm talking a lot. Someone might say, "Look, you're talking in hindsight." I'm not talking of hindsight. Look at this article. Look at this article, set of articles. I think I wrote about 8 to 10 articles. I've just shown three of you. Have a look at it. I said this will happen, and that is exactly what's happening. Chinese people are getting killed in Dasu Dam, Karachi, Balochistan में attack हो रहा है, सब कुछ हो रहा है. And the day is not far when things will start off in Gilgit-Baltistan if you help them. Then there's the issue of cultural incompatibility. I'll spend a couple of minutes on this. Majority of Pakistanis consider religion to be very important. There's no doubt, after all, it's a Islamic republic. In China, religion has no place, no issue. How, and this is what I had written then. How will this contradiction of a highly religious Islamic republic and a communist state be managed? Remember, the Pakistani is like the American dollar, but not the Americans. This is a fact. Okay? Mix the religiously charged environment of Pakistan with Chinese culture. It's a heady cocktail. Today, that cocktail is toxic. So you have the Pakistani establishment, which is pro China, the people who are not pro China, who are probably anti China. Then you have the half front operating within Pakistan. The Eastern Front is the most stable front. The Western Front is active. The third front is under attack. So there are problems in this entire relationship. Recently, uh, the Pakistan Prime Minister and Army Chief went टू जी जिनपिंग उनके सामने साष्टांग नमस्कार किया कि भैया मेरे को कुछ दे दो, कुछ शुरू करो, कुछ करो. ये हाँ करेंगे, पहले आप start your operations against uh, TTP. Pakistan has gone there and get sorted out. Today I read some ex-may or something. As Pakistan has started Azme Istikam, TTP has started a counter operation called Azme Shariat. So it's going to be a war for Pakistan there. Let's see how it goes. Now look at when you see the nexus, see the issues from Pakistan side and the Chinese side. I just put them side by side. Have a look. As far as Pakistan is concerned, it is dogged by the CPEC failure. It's been very adversely affected by the abrogation of Article 370. Because after abrogation of Article 370, the Pakistan army was kept on the sidelines throughout. US withdrawal in 21 from Afghanistan has completely cut off economic sustenance. There's a downturn, economic downturn, which is going from bad to worse. One hybrid government was replaced by another hybrid government, and now a third hybrid government has come in. There's a continuing political crisis. There are floods and natural disasters in Pakistan. Radical and terror groups are operating happily. And Pakistan is now caught between USA and China. Overall, what? It has different priorities, and China is not its priority. Let's look at China. There's a CPC is failed, and Chinese are getting killed there. Chinese getting killed in Pakistan is more of a ego trip for China. It's an image which has gone bad. Then abrogation of Article 370. Because abrogation of Article 370 has issues for China, especially in Aksaichin. Then the pandemic hit them. Right. China was booming along like a good capitalist state. Now it has to turn to communism and wolf warriorism. Population is on the decline. China has its own set of problems, which were never there since the heydays of this axis. Then this China has to face the thing that it cannot deliver. Pak cannot deliver to China what China wants. And China itself is in a multi-front scenario. So from being in a time where both Pakistan and China were balle balle, it's no more balle balle now. Each have their own priorities and where the other can't help them. Right. As a result, you see, there's a loss of bonhomie between Pakistan and China these days. There are differing priorities. And Sino-Pak relations are becoming more transactional. They're changing. Like I said, certain fundamentals won't change, but certain major issues also will change. But You also have to understand that India is rising. I mean, we have to be clear about it. India is rising, and both China and Pakistan are conscious of it. India has gained in strategic confidence. Pakistan and China know that it is not the same India of 2017 or 19 where, we were hesitant to do what we had to do. Today we are confident of doing what we had to do, have to do. The past 10 years, you've seen you are a stable government with a strong government, or rather, stable democracy with a strong government. And it's continuing. And people are realizing that India is the only alternate to China in scale, size and scale, market, everything. So you have a whole lot of diplomatic support and political support which you didn't have earlier. So there's a change. This change is something which one has to understand. We can't keep saying no, no. We are the India of the old. वो दोनों साइड में आएंगे मर जाएंगे नहीं दोनों साइड में आएंगे एक को मारो उसके बाद दूसरे को मारो हमारा सोच बदली होना चाहिए वी हैव टू चेंज योर थिंकिंग go for the weaker of this lot finish him off and then sort out the stronger guy or whichever way. Okay, if you look at it, India remains the common denominator of this axis. There will be extensive cooperation in information and science. Let's not get away from it. It will be there. Right. Like I said earlier, if I analyze it, summarize it, Pakistan and China have never come to each other's military assistance in all wars with India. It is doubtful they will do so in the next war. They have very clear reasons, if you go into it, why they'll not help each other. Okay, there's a large section within the Pakistan military which says, why should we fight the Chinese war? Why should I commit my forces to further China's interests? I should commit my forces to further my interests. It is there. They realize that let China and India sort themselves out. Okay, whatever the outcome is good for us. And as far as Pakistan, is concerned, we also have to understand Pakistan will not do anything where it loses political clout. They will not mind losing a war against India, but they will mind losing political clout in Pakistan. Losing against India for China is not their cup of tea, not the Pakistan army's cup of tea. Okay. In future, the focus will be on the Indian Ocean region and the maritime interests. I'll talk of this in detail. In detail. And as India rises, both Pakistan and China have to start thinking defensively. Pakistan has already started thinking defensively. It's a matter of time that China will also have to start thinking defensively and no more only offensive. And the indications are that they're doing that. Okay. Tibet and POK are vulnerable, which India can exploit. And we can exploit it better today. So let's look at the conflict situation on ground post 2022. Okay. So if you have a look at the Pakistan side. They have a problem where POK is disturbed. Their protests in POK. TTP and BLA have tied them down completely on the Durand line. CPEC is under attack regularly. They have a problem with Iran. Right? Look at China. China is today stuck in Philippines. Tutu Meme, shadow, bumping, boats bumping. Any day a war can break out there. It's come to that level. It's extended Its Navy and Coast Guard are extended right down to where I put that star around Philippines. That's the second Thomas Shoal. A new flashpoint is coming at a place further south called Sabina Shoal that stretches China. They're stuck in Taiwan. They suddenly have realized Taiwan is no go. And a new development is taking place in Korean Peninsula, which I spoke of. I did a full program on the China Russia deal, rather the North Korea Russia deal, and what China feels like a jilted lover. And North Korea has done 4 5 missile tests. Every missile test done by North Korea destabilizes the Korean Peninsula. So they're stuck there. Where is a commonality of interest? Add to that, look at Ukraine and West Asia. Both are in flames. China is under pressure already from the West and USA not to not help Russia that Ukraine is giving it. On the other hand, Pakistan is supplying 155 ammunition and artillery ammunition, all kinds of ammunition to Ukraine. They are on the opposite sides in Ukraine. So Pakistan is looking to itself, and China can't be happy about it. Just think China's two allies, Pakistan and North Korea. North Korea is giving ammunition to Russia, and Pakistan is giving ammunition to Ukraine. And this is what the news story is all about. So there's a divergence of interests we have to understand. Then the West Asia crisis, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're all involved in whatever is happening in Gaza. So there's a problem there. And China is finding it difficult. Why is China finding it difficult? Because its oil comes from there. Most of its imports goes through the Red Sea corridor, Red Sea Suez Canal corridor. So its imports are getting hit, right? And not all imports go through Chinese flag carriers. ट्रेड है कहीं से उठाया कहीं से ले गए कोई ले गया anyone can take any kind of trade from wherever it is. So if the Chinese exports cannot go through the Red Sea through other trade carriers and Houthis are stopping that, who loses? China loses. So there is a issue of the other things which are impacting this relationship, and we have to understand that. So, I mean, how does it impact? That's the thing. This is the thing. You look at it. You look at it a little closer, these red boxes. Look at the Pakistan side. Pakistan's only stable border is the India border today. All other borders are. And then it has to undertake Azme Istikam against TTP and Taliban. And its orientation is completely to the west, not to the east. You look at China, its orientation is completely to the east, it's not to the west. It is seeking stability with you. बार बार वो बोल रहे हैं we have to have a relationship beyond the border. It is India which is saying border first. I mean, if today you give this rope to China, they'll jump at it. The problem is China will say something and do something else, so you can't trust them. So you might as well keep them at arm's length. That's a different story. That's a good thing that the government is doing. But you see, the orientation is moving away. They don't have an interest against India. While their major thing is against India, their major problem still remains with India, common. But they're stuck elsewhere. Will this change in a hurry? It will not change in a hurry. Both these are in the starting of the conflict cycles, which means another 2 to 3 years. In 2 to 3 years, India will be so strong that it can't be, you know. And will Pakistan become stronger after 2 to 3 years? It will in fact become weaker. And China, in a case, is declining. That I have always said. So if you see, the equations are changing, and this changing thing is something which we have to recognize and factor in and act accordingly. We'll talk of that. So, what are the future uh, contours as it's emerging? First will be to salvage the CPEC. The second thing is the expand the maritime nature of the relationship. The strategic maritime relationship has to expand. Look, Pakistan is modernizing its naval fleet, and it is seeking submarines from China, frigates from China, and most of the arms are from China, Pakistan. It's carried out joint naval exercises, China and Pakistan. It's called Sea Guardian, and it was done last year in November. Where was it done? North Arabian Sea. China wants a space here which it doesn't have. Okay. Pakistan will have to facilitate China's presence in the Indian Ocean, otherwise, China is stuck. China's energy security is at stake. It depends on the Persian Gulf and supplies from Iran and Saudi Arabia. And for all this, it needs Pakistan. So the axis remains, the contours are changing, and the end games are changing because the interests are different today. So we have to be alive to this whole story. Okay. So there are some views which I've collected from international people. Pakistan is China's Israel, as per one of the Chinese. What Israel is to USA, Pakistan is to China in this area. But then, is it so? It's not so. Right. There's also a view that China has repeatedly left Pakistan to stew in its own juices in moments of peril from 1965 to more recent crises. China has pledged 66 billion of assistance to Pakistan between 2001 and 11 CPEC, but only 6% materialized. This use has even less than 6-7 billion dollars. But conservatively, let me say $20 billion. Of course, they keep saying our friendship is higher than the Himalayas and deeper than the deepest sea in the world and sweeter than honey. But I don't think so. That's not what is coming out. And there's a Chinese view that China is willing to help Pakistan defend a Pakistani bomb, but we won't help them to protect an Islamic bomb. They're worried because if the moment it becomes an Islamic bomb, Xinjiang will get affected. And Chinese officials have been disturbed by escalating violence both in Xinjiang and against more than 10,000 Chinese nationals within Pakistan. This is a little old. It happened, this happened about 5-6 years back, this statement. But you extrapolate it today, if China is even more fixated or rather forced to look towards Philippines and Taiwan and North Korea, and then you light a fire on its rear door, which is Xinjiang and Tibet. China is in huge mess, and that can happen any day. Okay, so in summary, Pakistan is dependent on Chinese arms because the West is not giving Pakistan anything. So Pakistan has to depend on Chinese fighters, submarines, ships, tanks, rifles, everything. Its nuclear program is dependent on China, irrespective of the fact whether it's first class or second class or whatever it is. China is dependent on park location, but Pakistan is China's vulnerability. As China gets in with Pakistan, China becomes vulnerable. Pakistan to hai. So what does it matter? Whatever you do against Pakistan will affect China. This is a new thing, new paradigm which is coming out, and that is something which we have to be cognizant of. Now, Pakistan is also the battleground between USA and China. Yeah, like I said, information warfare, ISR, in surveillance and recce, political diplomatic nexus will continue. Let's be prepared for it. Maritime cooperation will continue. Let's be prepared for it. They will try to salvage CPEC. Let's prepare for it. Okay. Now, why am I showing this map? Have a look at this map. Gilgit Baltistan, right? Is ours. So this area was ceded to us. If you look at it in this entire story, Gilgit Baltistan is the center of gravity of our relationship. Whoever has Gilgit Baltistan plays, is in a good position. Today, China and Pakistan control it. If we do something and get control or partially control Gilgit Baltistan, then you start reaching out to Afghanistan. You start interfering in CPEC and much more. Then you can, reach out to Shaksgam Valley, start negotiating with China to return Shaksgam Valley, which they have taken illegally. Even in the treaty between, deal between Pakistan and China on Shaksgam Valley, they said when the issue of Kashmir is finally settled, the status of Shaksgam Valley will be settled then. Now, if you take over Gilgit Baltistan and POK, which is yours, and if these two places come to you willingly, then you negotiate with Shaksgam Valley. The moment you get Shaksgam Valley, you're sitting in Xinjiang. The equations change completely. So that's the importance which I'm going to come. What do we do next? You look at it here down south in the Indian Ocean region. Today, you are at Minicoy. You have a base at Minicoy. You also have a base at Agalika. You have a base in Andaman Nicobar Island. You are constructing the port of Duqm in Oman and the mainland. With this, you control the Indian Ocean. China has got a base at Djibouti. It's trying to establish a base at Gwadar. It has got a base at Gwadar. Only thing is not operational. And Hambantota, it's trying to make an entry into Maldives. Their focus is very clear. Ensure Hambantota doesn't become a naval base of China. Ensure Maldives offers no military facilities to China somehow or the other, and isolate Gwadar. And the action is here, but it is not that don't do one against the other. You have to do both. So what do we do? The first thing is we have to be very clear that we need to continue our military development, develop our capacities. That you can do both, upar or niche. That is in the Himalayas, also in the IOR. We need to exploit the J&K and Tibet fissures. How do you maximize J&K? You have to retake J&K completely. I'm quite clear that time has come that we need to retake J&K. Why we have to do it, how we have to do it. Maybe I'll do a program one of these days. Let me apply my mind. Maybe in the next week I'll do it. And Tibet. Start your program against Tibet. I've done 2 programs on free Tibet. I'll do a third one very shortly. It's not fighting. You shouldn't fight. You do it politically. Let me tell you, politically, it has got more weight. And China is worried if you do anything political. There are a lot of issues in Tibet, Dalai Lama succession, all. We'll talk of it. Don't cede space in IOR. That's why I showed you that map. Don't allow China to get into Maldives or Hambantota. Gwadar you can't stop. But develop Chabahar. ignore Pakistan. Pakistan is trying its best to come to you. Ignore it. Any talks with China will be on a border first basis. Border first, the rest later. Right? Okay. So these are the ways we need to progress. We can fight. I mean, we are defending ourselves. I mean, defending India by the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force and the Navy is a foregone conclusion. But the time has come for us to take the fight across. Not militarily. That's the worst thing we can do. The time is also not right for military action. The time is for political action. What do we have to do in Tibet? Uh, like I said, I'm going to do this next program on Tibet from an India perspective, not from Tibet perspective. Do it from India perspective, or rather India Tibet perspective, and we'll discuss about it. Okay. Now I'll take on a few questions. Uh, China and Pakistan must both be ignored. I don't agree with the fact that you ignore them both. You have to ignore them on certain aspects, but on certain things, you must do what you have to do. Look, I don't want to talk like this. Why is Congress against all development? Uh, this is your view. This is not the view of India. This is the view of a political party which is opposing Congress, right? I mean, I can argue. I don't like Congress. I don't like BJP, right? But they are the hard fact is both these are our national parties. You might have a view, others don't have. Okay, so give space to everyone. Everyone has their national interests in mind. Right? On this platform, we will talk professionally without any political bias. Please, for my God's sake, don't talk of as if the Modi government is going to run India forever. Things change. Once upon a time, a lot of people used to talk of Congress government ruling India forever. Things change. I'm an army officer, retired. For me, whether it is Congress or BJP, it doesn't matter. It's the government of India which is more important to me. Yeah, Islamic nations are coming together. We saw this in SEO, and Russia will supply wheat and oil to Pakistan. So it's bad news for India. No, Islam nations are not coming together in SEO. SEO is by of China and Russia. They are the dominant ones. उनके जो Islamic nations उसके they're just getting all these people. I'll talk of SEO and BRICS some other day. When let the SEO meet finish, and then I'll see what the outcomes are and what the whole thing is. SEO and BRICS are not Islamic nations, Islamic groupings. They are basically for establishing a alternate world order by Russia and China. But that's a later day story. Yeah. In the light of ongoing ops by Pakistan as well as China outreach, how can we leverage our relationship with Afghanistan to exert greater influence or at least protect our strategic say? Yeah, you have a lot to do. After all, Azma kam shuru ho raha. It couldn't have it couldn't have started but for your whatever you have done or you are doing. So you keep your door open with the Afghanistan and the Taliban. It doesn't matter. Help them out. Help the BLA. Help the TTP. I have no doubt about it. वही कहानी है. If they can say enemy of your enemy is your friend, so I can say that also. Yeah, I hear Chinese quality of their arms and manufacturing is quite lacking in quality. I agree with you. On 6th evening, that is right, uh, early morning 6th here and late evening 6th in Delhi and India. I'm going to do a program with General Narayanan on this. An assessment of the defense and aerospace capabilities of China will cover this thing. Don't wait for that. Are we not getting shorter end of the stick with a ceasefire on LAC, which again Pakis violate as per their whims? They're essentially been free to tackle Afghanistan. No, I think your assessment is too emotional. They are stuck on that. A few incidents you cannot rule out, but largely we have brought a lot of peace. You have a major issue of conducting elections by September there. And if this peace on the LOC had not been there, you might not have been able to do it. But at the right time, if things go bad, you have the capability to calibrate your attitudes and actions on the LAC. That's a matter of time. So I don't think so. Okay. Yeah. I am asking if Kisan Andolan type people try to block roads and are rail for army convoy. Look, all this is, like I said, you're also politically motivated. I have not seen one Andolan or anyone trying to stop the army. This is all political. Then don't mix politics with the armed forces. So when is the next open session? I've been collecting my questions for a while now, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts, explanations. Tomorrow, let me do. Now that you said so, I'll do an open session tomorrow. Done. So all of you, be ready. Tomorrow, I'll have an open session. Yeah. Yesterday, Chinese and Filipinos held talks regarding South China Sea dispute after violent clashes. What could have possibly transpired? Will Philippines play on front door or will it play a pragmatic game, front foot, or will it play a pragmatic? Let's see. Things are very fluid out there, right? I think Philippines are dug in their heels and they've stretched China. I think I'll do a program on Philippines, what's happening, and actually there's a whole lot of things which are happening in Philippines which are going against China, which I spoke of day before yesterday. They're getting bad vibes from there. So it's not hunky dory for China and the Philippines, right? China have been stockpiling minerals, food grains, and imposing stricter regulation on exports of rare earth material for about 2 years now, without much preparation. Yeah, they're preparing for war, right? But wars, as you know, won't finish even within 2 years. And how much can you stockpile in all this? There's a limit. If you do too much of stockpiling and restricting your exports and all that, you will get hit. You will get worse off. So is China ready to do that? Because see, ultimately you have to see everything China in China from a political viewpoint. If the Chinese economy starts going down, isolation takes place, everything, the Chinese Communist Party will find it difficult to survive. So there are pros and cons to what it is. Yeah. Now, Kadiani says as India keeps increasing its defense budget, Pakistan will keep getting closer and closer to China. Please go ahead. You keep getting closer. We'll sort both of you out. Okay. How is our preparedness in Arunachal to face threats from China with respect to infrastructure and military strength? Is it adequate, or we need to be more conscious building our strength? Look, uh, very recently, our Prime Minister inaugurated the Sela Tunnel. Now, the moment the Sela, I spoke about it day before yesterday also. The moment the Sela tunnel comes into being, it has come into being. You have 365 days access to the Tabang sector. The moment you have that, actually, the moment you have 24 by 7 border infrastructure going, uh, it's not a defensive capability which increases, it's your offensive capability which comes into play. All this infrastructure enables you to go offensive. Whether you like it or not, I'm not saying that we should be offensive, but it gives you offensive capability. Okay? Don't lose sight of that. So we are very prepared. Okay, what economic developments do you foresee between India, Iran, Russia, and Afghanistan? Oil, gas, transit, uh, all that is on the international north-south transit corridor, which is important. With Afghanistan, there's hell of a lot you can do once Iran comes into the picture. And to whatever you want to do in Afghanistan, you need Iran and Russia, and both are on your side in this. Once the Chabahar port comes through. So there's a huge thing. And once that happens, your reach into Central Asian republics is better. Ask ISKP, ETI, and Baluch forces pose a direct threat to China and Xinjiang operating from Pakistan and Afghanistan. How will China's relations with Afghanistan and Pakistan? It's affected already badly. Let's be very clear. Why is China going into Afghanistan and bribing Afghanistan and Taliban to keep them out? Because China doesn't have the capacity to handle Afghanistan there. So the Chinese method is not to fight. The Chinese method is to go and give them. And Taliban knows it very well. Taliban will keep extracting what they want from the Chinese. And that is why we have to start thinking of doing whatever we have to do in POK and Gilgit Baltistan. We need to retake them. I am very clear about it. The day you do that, a lot of issues come into play, and I'll talk of it. I'll talk of it maybe next week. Okay. So I think I've finished all the questions. Okay. Akshka, last question also I've taken. Right. So I hope you people have had a you know good session with me in the morning today. I hope you liked it. If you like it, please press the bell icon and like button. Also, for those of you who are seeing this video for the first time, uh, please subscribe to Gunner Shot. I'd like you to join me as members. This is my appeal to all of you. I need more members contributing uh, to Gunner Shot, and I need members for only one reason. Let me be very honest with you, because whatever remuneration I get out of members, I use it for educating girl children. Okay, so that's how it is. So I request you to contribute more and be generous, and even supers and all that, because that money go. It does. I mean, I don't need money to be very honest, but some girl will thank you for educating her if you contribute or become members. For us, people like us, uh, it's a very minuscule amount you're contributing. But for that girl, it's her life. India, Pakistan, China can all live well or not. But if we can help our children who can't afford education, I think we are doing a noble thing. So please contribute. That's all my request. I'm going to have some interesting dialogues going down the line. I'm doing an analysis on Pakistan in 2047. I'll do one on JNK, on POK. I'll do one on Tibet. This is what's going to come. Because I'm sitting here at a place where I'm thinking on my own. I'm not networking with my friends in India at this point, barring a few. And let me give you my original thinking. Once I go back to India, which is later the month, I'll do my normal story. Till then, goodbye, thank you, and Jai Hind. Have a great day.